Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA front office show. The NBA world still reeling from that shocking Bradley Beal trade. We've got some more details on that to break down. Chris Paul, his future is Damian Lillard on the move next. Draymond Green makes a decision on his contract. All kinds of stuff to get into. We had a great turnout for our live show yesterday, a surprise live show that we were not anticipating having, but when the Bradley Beal news broke, we decided to go live and got a great turnout. We're so thankful for everybody who showed up for that. If you are new to the show, make sure you are subscribing. Turn on those notifications over here on the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. Go follow us over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Keith, this yesterday ended up being a very interesting Father's Day, one that, again, we weren't expecting, but we got a big move, and now we've got all kinds of news to get into today. Some of it is the fallout from that Bradley Beal trade, and some of that is stuff that's going to be coming up over the next few days here.
Yeah, Trevor, I have a new thing to add, right? You and I like to say in the summertime or at the trade deadline, it's when we get in the car and have to run like an errand or go to school pickup. I'm going to add the minute I sit down, I'm like, I think I can take a nap. That's when things start happening too. So I'll try to fit more naps in, I guess. Which I'll take one for the team with that one. So, are you a nap guy? Do you like taking naps?
As I've gotten older, yes, it's become a thing. I have for some reason, and it's annoying. I don't like that I do the post dinner nap now. I just can't keep my eyes open after I'll crash out for like 30 minutes, but then I'm up to like 2 or 3 in the morning. So that's probably why.
That's it's funny. I was never I wasn't even like big on naps in college. Like I was like get up and go. I've always been a pretty early riser. Like I've never been a person who sleeps in very well. But man, I love naps, and it always reminds me. I saw a shirt when I was walking around Disney one time, and it said, "Dear Nap, sorry I was such a jerk when I was a kid." And it's just the best. Like I love it. So, but anyway, we're not here to talk about sleep habits of ourselves. Let's go. We got quite a bit of NBA news to break down. We are 3 days out from the NBA draft, so we're getting close.
It's going to be a blast. It's going to be a blast. Make sure you join us for the live show on draft night. We'll be breaking down all the picks, but let's start here because a lot of people thought the Miami Heat were going to be in on Bradley Beal and felt like the Miami Heat had a better offer than the one that was ultimately accepted by the Suns. And we've seen there's been some reporting that, yeah, there were better offers for Bradley Beal that were out there on the table for the Wizards, but unfortunately, that no trade clause meant that they could only trade him to where he wanted to go and for the package that he wanted. By the way, Bradley Beal really did Washington no favors in here. There was no like, hey, I'm gonna help you guys out. He slammed that door on the way out. Like, oh, you guys want Ayton? Nope, you can't even get him. Nope, I want to play with him. I'm not gonna let anything good happen here for the Wizards.
Well, now there's reporting just to add to it that by the end it's only the Suns. Like it wasn't even, I don't even want to go to these other places, which seems like, once the Suns had kind of locked in on, we want you, like he wanted to go there too, but that's the power they gave him. Right.
Exactly.
And I'm having a little bit of struggles here because people are really killing the Wizards front office. And one, they're cleaning up somebody else's mess with this one, right? I said yesterday, it's like coming in and picking up a house and you're trying to flip it. And it's like, oh my God, what did these people do like to this place? Like, and now you're stuck with trying to fix it so you can turn it into something good. I think it's a little unfair, the amount of criticism being levied towards these guys, because they could have said no, right? Like, we're just going to keep you. But I don't know that the offers were really going to get any better. I don't know that anybody was going to get super desperate and say, oh my God, we have to, throw in more for Bradley Beal. And because of the no trade clause, it almost kind of doesn't matter if the offers get better. Let's say it was never going to happen. But let's say the Charlotte Hornets were like, how about the number 2 pick and, I don't know, Terry Rozier, to kind of kick things off. We're like, sure, Washington would take that, but Beal could say, nah, I'm good. Right? That was the power the former front office gave him, and he used every bit of it. Not, I don't blame him at all for this situation, but you're absolutely right. I mean, he really put them in a tough position. But there's something to be said for just wiping your hands clean and moving on with with the way they are.
What's the reaction to Bradley Beal going to be the first time he goes back and plays in Washington?
Yeah, it's tough. I would hope he gets cheered, right? Because my hope would be Wizards fans would look at it and say, this dude gave us 11 years. We never figured it out here with him, beyond a middling team. And
Right.
yeah, it turned sideways here with this trade result. But at the end of the day, like, we gave him that power as a franchise, right? So
Mhm.
I would hope he still gets cheered. I don't know. I don't think it's leaving on such a bad note. Let's see. Now if this turns into when he gets in Phoenix, like, couldn't wait to get out of that tire
Yeah.
fire.
Right.
Contract the team, moving to Seattle, then like, all right, then I could see how that goes the other way. But if it's just, hey, I did my best for 11 years. It's the same thing with Damian Lillard. And I think Blazers fans, and I know that's gonna be a topic in a little bit.
Yeah.
But if he got traded, I imagine he would get a rousing standing ovation because all he did was do his best for more than a decade, and it's not his fault that things kind of went sideways at the end.
Sure. I mean, in my mind, Beal kind of went scorched earth on his way out the door.
Yeah, a little
And
bit.
so that's the only thing that I could see not sitting well with Wizards fans. But the rest of it, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think that he did everything he could. And then, the Wizards were the team that were not able to really build anything around him. As far
I would
as
hope Wizards fans like the idea, though, like they open up the Washington Wizards multi-year view on Spot Track and they no longer see that $200+ million. Maybe then they start to feel a little bit better. That was also a very cheap plug. You can go check out the multi-year view on Spot Track, and you don't see that anymore because we processed it and we'll clean it up after if the trade expands or whatever. And but we'll move on with the show. But I wanted to get that plug in.
Yeah, no. Very, and it is a very, very nice tool to have. Again, I love that on there. It's got the percentage of the cap that a contract is taking up because that is so important for understanding the context of what a deal actually is. But anyway, where I was going with all of this was Miami probably did have a better offer out there for Bradley Beal. However, it's also been said that Miami is, if they had to pick between the two, they would rather have Damian Lillard than Bradley Beal. And now Damian Lillard's future is apparently totally in the hands of the Blazers. Like Lillard has said many times, like, I want to win in Portland. He's made no mistake about that. He wants to be in Portland. He wants to win there. But should the Blazers not move this number 3 pick, and they've got other assets that they could attach to it, but if they don't move this pick, if they don't significantly improve the team right here, right now, then other conversations may need to be had. So it appears that Damian Lillard is really just letting the Blazers decide, hey, what do you guys want to do? If you want to build around me and win, cool. Let's go. Let's do that. Make moves to that effect. If you don't want to do that, I'm okay with that too. But then let's have a different conversation. So he's kind of just leaving it up to the Blazers. What happens here with his future?
Yeah, I mean, and that's not the worst decision in the world for Damian Lillard, right? Because then, and in no way does he become the bad guy here, right? He's basically saying, "Hey, make the team better and let's go." And this all came from a report from Shams Charania on the Pat McAfee show. So some people, Trevor, just inside baseball before we started, Trevor and I were having the conversation of, you have to kind of look a lot of different places for this stuff now because it's not all going to hit Twitter. Whether it's Shams or Woj or Haynes or Mark Stein or Jake Fisher, these guys are saying stuff on TV, on radio appearances, on YouTube, podcasts, everywhere. Brian Windhorst drops like 400 good nuggets every podcast he does. And I get it, right? There's only so much capacity. Again, I put this out on Twitter over the weekend. We use the Real GM wiretap and the Hoops Hype rumors page to try to stay on top of everything because they do a pretty good job of finding all of it and aggregating it together between those two, as well as we're obviously far more glued to our computers each day than we should probably ever admit, and our phones when we're not in front of a PC. So anyway,
I literally, my wife was so annoyed with me today. We had to go to the grocery store and something was happening. I had to respond to something that was going on Twitter. I was getting asked about a salary cap thing and all that. And I had to say, here, please push the cart for a minute. I need to respond to this. She just rolls her eyes. I'm like, it's this time of year. Come on.
Trevor, my version is I hand Danielle the phone when I'm driving and I'm like, here, write this response to this text or this tweet. And she gets get so angry.
No,
I'm
that I
like,
said
all right.
hard cap. Put that in.
Yeah, right. I love it.
Oh no.
Are you
Our
saying
poor
hard cat? What? Yeah, right. Yeah, the patience of our spouses is
That's right.
beyond belief. So anyway, back to this report though. So what Sham said, I'm not going to read the whole thing, the quote from him, but left it up to Portland. And he said this was the part that got interesting. If nothing comes about, meaning they don't do anything with their draft picks, they make no trades, then I do think Damian Lillard would have to look very hard at his future in Portland. So that was that was the part that really kind of stuck out to me as all right, there's that makes it just that much more real, right? That it is like, yeah, he's basically gonna say, what do you want to do? And to your point that you brought up before, all reports out of Miami is when Beal was I'm just going to phrase it as lukewarm, and that maybe is not the right way. But when Beal was like, I'm not really interested in going to the Heat, it feels like what they did in Miami was as they pivoted, they went into a spot where it turned into, all right, we're going to wait. And if Damian Lillard becomes available, we would have to trade a lot of the same stuff anyway, just from the salary matching standpoint. So we're going to wait. And we're not going to continue to throw stuff into a Beal trade and try to make that happen if we believe we can get Damian Lillard. And I would say they're holding, and there's reports coming out there. And Chris Haynes, whenever he reports anything on Damian Lillard, I'm like, I perk up because I'm like, all right. He reported Miami's holding out hope. My guess is this is probably going to be, you don't trade that pick on Thursday and you get veteran help. Then let's go. Put me on the market and let's get something done. So, maybe Miami made the right decision on kind of holding off a little bit.
Yeah. That's one of the big dominoes that we're waiting to see what happens with during this what is projecting to be a crazy NBA offseason. Again, already I've seen fireworks here. We're not even close to 4th of July and we're already seeing fireworks. So this is going to be, I think, a busy summer for us. And the Lillard situation may be the next big one to really kind of boil over. And now we're talking about Portland potentially moving Lillard. And man, it feels like this has been one that's been years in the making, similar to the Bradley Beal situation.
Yeah, and related here is if we look at it with Lillard and the Blazers, if the Blazers are going to move 3, the related report is New Orleans wants to get up to 3 to try to get Scoot Henderson. And that's probably going to be a little bit of a when they're on the clock potential situation, because of if Charlotte takes Scoot Henderson, then New Orleans is probably like, we're good. We're not trading up. You'll figure it out yourself, Portland. But if Charlotte takes Brandon Miller, which continues to be what the mock drafts, most of them are saying, then that turns into Zion Williamson, right? Like what we're hearing, the reporting out there is Portland prefers Zion Williamson. If they're going to make a trade, they'd rather have Zion than Brandon Ingram. And there's a lot of reporting that not only has New Orleans talked Zion trades as far back as last year's trade deadline, but they are open to the idea of maybe moving Zion to move up. So that gets, to be really, really interesting at that point, if that's where that comes down. So it's, it's funny. Woj said on that Russillo pod, I'm not going to tweet all the picks because I'm going to focus more on trades and reports. I feel like Woj basically, without saying it, said there's going to be way too much going on trade wise that I can't be spending time chasing every single draft pick. Like I'm going to be chasing, all right, what's exactly in the trade? Well, what's happening here? And all those details are going to be going on. So that got me super excited. I'll say it again. I'm going to say this a couple more times. Last 4 drafts, 16 trades, 18 trades, 21 trades, and 24 trades are related to the draft. Now, some of those are small, like T-Max bought a second round pick, but there's definitely plenty of blockbusters involved in there as well. So yeah, man, let's go.
I still wonder, like, as Woj's phone gets notifications with Shams like spoiling picks, is he just gonna kind of like eat away at him a little bit? And
is Woj gonna be like on like pick 15 when the TV's showing like 10, and he's gonna be like, I showed you, let's go. He starts tweeting 2024 picks.
he starts tweeting picks for next year.
Yeah, right.
He's like the Charlotte Hornets are yeah, the Charlotte Hornets are laser focused on drafting this player in 2028. All right. So if you're the Hornets, is their bluff going to get called here? Like in terms of taking Scoot, do they take Scoot just to take him, or what do they do? I mean, they're kind of in the driver's seat but it seems like as much as they've tried to put out there that, oh no, we might really take Scoot, because then that's good for them. If they can move back to 3 and get their guy, that's ideal. Pick up something, right? But it doesn't seem like that's really taking. Doesn't seem like people are buying it.
Yeah, now I wonder if what they do is take it to draft. Well, let's go back to the whole could they still take Scoot stuff. Over the weekend, it broke that they are bringing back both Scoot Henderson and Brandon Miller for second workouts. Michael Jordan will be there. Michael Jordan is still, even though he's going to sell the team, still running the team for now as the governor of the team. So it sounds like he's going to be involved. My guess is whatever happens trade wise or draft wise, the new guys are going to be consulted and involved too, because they're obviously not going to be like, hey, yeah, do whatever, and we'll take whatever's left when we step in a few weeks here. So what's likely to happen, my guess is they're going to work both of those guys out. And now Brandon Miller's workout reportedly didn't go great, but he was recovering from mono, where Scoot Henderson's workout went amazing. So it sounds like they want to get a second look at those guys. So I kind of get it, right, with that one. So I think what we could see, what I would try to do if I'm Charlotte is take you all the way down to draft night. Maybe they draft Scoot Henderson and then tell New Orleans, trade up to 3. Then you trade us 3 for 2 with something else.
Yeah.
And then we'll, now you can have Scoot Henderson and we'll get, whoever.
You get Bo Callahan.
Right. That's it. Yeah. 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 Jump in front. Maybe, I mean, they can't jump in front, right? Because they're not going up to 1. That's not happening. No. So, yeah, that's a lot of intrigue, starting right there too. So that's a lot of fun.
All right. The other fallout, of course, from the Bradley Beal trade, Chris Paul. Where does he ultimately wind up? It's probably not Washington. There was some news suggesting that Washington would be fine with keeping him and all of that. But that's what you expect to be put out there this time of year. But Chris Paul is most likely to go somewhere else. If you're Washington, what you want to do is you want to retrade him, because good Lord, you got nothing out of this deal. Basically, if you can move him, if somebody else will be willing to pay him the $25 million or whatever it is that's going to be guaranteed. We're guessing it's going to be about $25 million guaranteed on his deal. If somebody's willing to pay him that and have salaries they can trade in addition to, hell, even if you get 1 second rounder, that's better than just waiving him and getting nothing, unless he agrees to chop a bunch of money off in a buyout or something like that. So the Wizards are going to try to flip him, and that's where maybe this is going to become a 3-team trade ultimately. If they can't, they've got until the 28th to make a decision on what they're going to do with his contract. And of course, they would not pick up that contract for next year. They would just take the buy. Well, at $25 million.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's different now.
It's not. You're not saving half anymore, right? You're only saving about $5 million. At that point, do you just let it guarantee, knowing we can probably trade him later?
Yeah,
right? We can, whether it's in July or hey, we'll play. I mean, Chris Paul, he's always been professional, even when. We went to Oklahoma City with the intention of, right? Yep. Everybody was like, it's not going to play there. It's not really going to be a thing. And then he was great. And I'm not saying he's that guy anymore. And I mean, Washington's not going to have an SGA sitting around that's going to lift the team into the playoffs or anything like that. But, no disrespect meant to like Johnny Davis and Corey Kispert and Denny Avdia, but I don't see it. So, but yeah, I tend to think, I don't know if they just do turn right around and buy him out. I think if he'll say, hey, all that extra money you had to guarantee me in the trade, I'll give it all back and I'll go down to my $15.8 million. Then maybe, all right, now that makes a lot more sense. But I do wonder if it's better to say, hey, no, like we'd rather have you as a $30.8 million it's pseudo expiring because he's fully non-guaranteed next season. And we can, trade you later if we want to and see, because you got to imagine anybody's point guard gets hurt from a title contender. Hey,
oh sure.
Hey, we have Chris Paul. You want him, right? So that turns into a whole thing there. So, yeah, I am kind of curious, right, to see how that all comes together.
And if you're like the Clippers have been the team that's mentioned that could go after him, you've got a number of different contracts that they could trade for him, especially guys that are expiring anyway. So if you're the Clippers and you're trading a couple of expiring players, let's say it's Robert Covington and I don't know, Marcus Morris, right? Just to throw two names out. They've got a lot of guys that you could slot in there, but
Sure.
let's say it's
Yeah,
those two guys for whatever reason. Yeah.
yeah.
Any number of guys that you could put in there. But if you're way over the right. I mean, you were one of the teams that was in the crosshairs, right? With this new CBA. So you're way over the cap anyway. You're way over that 179.5 million. You know you're not going to have spending power no matter what. So if you're already over, if you take two guys, say, that you like, but not as much as Chris Paul, why not just turn those guys into Chris Paul? And it doesn't really change much for you. Now, what about with next year? Like, would this be possible next year with the rules kicking in?
No, not for the Clippers, because they'll be
I think that's
so
important.
far. Yeah, I mean, right, and I shouldn't say a definitive no, because we don't know how the roster will look. But if everything goes the way we expect, they'll still be so far over the super tax line, the second apron. They will be in a spot where starting next year, 24-25, which will start with like a year from now in the beginning part of July, they will not be able to aggregate salaries together in a trade. So that'll be a problem for them. They will not be able to do that. It's part of the reason why the Suns kind of did this now, because a year from now they would not be able to aggregate together Chris Paul and Landry Shamet to go get something, even if saying, hey, we'll guarantee chunks of salary and other stuff. They wouldn't be able to do that. So now that's why you're going to see some of these teams make some of these moves, I'll say today, but this next month, because they won't be able to do that a year from now.
So, and I'm not suggesting in any way that the Clippers would try to make this trade next year. I'm just saying it's a distinction between what the landscape is going to look like next year under the new, more restrictive rules of the CBA. This year, we know the Clippers are not going to have the taxpayer mid-level. We know the Warriors are not going to have it. Now the Suns are not going to have it. But it'll be that much more restricted, like significantly more restrictive next summer. And again, that's part of why maybe if you're the Clippers, you go ahead and you do something like this now. And we'll see if that's ultimately where this goes. I think a lot of it too is going to depend on what does Chris Paul want? Does he want to go to the Clippers? Like that's going to be a factor here in all of this as well. And so we'll see kind of where he ultimately goes. Other landing spots, the Warriors have popped up. Of course, the Lakers have popped up. I've said the only way it makes sense for the Lakers is if he's bought out. You can't really pay Chris Paul $25 million. And I mean, you could, but it's just, it gets your opportunity cost gets pretty large in terms of, okay, now you don't have a mid-level most likely to use. You don't, it becomes very restrictive. So, but for a team like the Clippers, it might make sense. The Warriors, I don't know how they do it or why.
I mean, it would have to be Jordan Poole, and then like, I don't know. Yeah, you'd be bringing him in. He could definitely play with Steph at times, but I'm not sure what that would be about either. So yeah, I would not do that if I was the Warriors. There's just not something that jumps to mind. Like we said with the Clippers, they've got kind of multiple paths to get there with guys that they don't necessarily need to match the salary. The Warriors don't have a guy like that. It would almost have to be Jordan Poole, and then why? Like, what's the point of that? Not that
Chris clearing his salary, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess. But then if you're Washington, I don't think I want Jordan Poole as kind of long term. Right? That's not necessarily where I'm looking to go. And that's from two of the bigger Jordan Poole fans around, right? Like we both like Jordan Poole. So, that just becomes a little bit of a thing there too. So yeah, I don't see how they get involved. My guess is, if I had to guess today, he lands with either, barring some team totally shockingly jumping in here, which it's the NBA, so that's probably the more likely occurrence. But if we're reading the tea leaves, he's going to be one of the two LA teams. Either the Clippers trade for him and jump in and make this a 3-team trade, or a second trade after this one's completed, or the Lakers get him, likely via, hey, I got waived. I'm making a ton of money, so the minimum deal I take from you doesn't really matter because I'm getting paid by Washington anyway.
Right. Yep. And that's probably the situation we're going to be looking at for Chris Paul.
Hold on a second, because I don't know if they can. I guess it would depend on when that happens. Let me look at something, because you can't, in the new CBA, and I got to look at when this kicks in, you cannot sign a player Well, I guess the Lakers won't be over the tax apron, so they'd still be fine.
Correct.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Where I was going is if you're over the tax apron over in the super tax, you can't, starting on July 1st, you can't sign a player who was
A
bought
buyout.
out or waived,
Right.
whose salary was more than the mid-level, which is 12.2 million. But
Right.
the Lakers will be under the second apron super tax, so they'd be fine. So
Yep.
yeah. But that's part of why the Clippers want to do this now as a trade, because they can't sign him, when this happens after July 1st, because he would have been making too much. So that's a problem for them.
All right. Let's move on to another big name, James Harden.
Yeah.
All we've been hearing is Harden to Houston, Harden to Houston, Harden to Houston. Now it's Harden to Houston? Maybe?
Yeah.
Or
like Harden no to Houston? Yeah, Houston, no problem.
Yeah. I'm Ron Burgundy. Harden staying in Philly now, maybe being a thing. Is this the way this is ultimately going to go? Maybe James Harden, just as we're getting closer and closer, and he's looking, going, look at that Houston roster. Can I actually do this? Now we're starting to hear that maybe he's just going to stay in Philly. I mean, Doc is gone. Doc Rivers had some comments recently about how he and James Harden didn't really see eye to eye on things. Maybe that's helped to clear the path for Harden to return to Philly. And now it's looking like he may wind up just staying. Again, this could change 50 times back and forth between now and July when he can actually sign the contract. Yeah. But now it's sounding more possible for him to actually stay in Philadelphia, continue his partnership with Joel Embiid, and then go from there.
Yeah, a lot of this came out of Zach Lowe on the Low Post podcast, and I loved his qualifier was, I don't know what the hell is going to happen. We'll see. That's how he ended this section talking about James Harden, which is kind of how we'll end it too. But yeah, it has grown more that Harden probably just says, yeah, it's just best if I stay in Philly. So there's a couple things here, right? Normally the incumbent team, which in this case is the Sixers, has a huge advantage in re-signing a player because they can give him, especially a player like Harden, you can give him the 5th year. So what happens in this case is they can't give him the 5th year because the over 38 rule that functionally rules that out. So what happens in this case is they would have to go with a 4-year deal. In the 4-year deal, 8% raises. Over a 4-year deal, 5% raises with another team, Houston in this case. It's not that big of a difference. It doesn't amount to enough that it's going to be the make or break for James Harden. So my guess is, it's probably Harden looking a little bit and saying, all right, if I go to Houston, to try and win, I have to deal with Denver, now Phoenix, now the Clippers, now the Lakers, now the Warriors. I'm leaving other teams out, but obviously, right, those teams were definitely behind almost no matter what else we did.
Yeah.
Because he's going to take, they have roughly 60 million in cap space. He's going to take most of it. Yeah, like it's going to leave very little because I don't think he's necessarily going, even if he leaves some on the table, he's not leaving like half on. It's like he's going to take 30 million, with that. So now what I wonder is with Philly, does Philly have to be careful that they don't play games here and try to get him to take less? Because we've heard they don't really want to give him 4 years at the max. So if Philly starts sticking on that, does that turn into, well, wait a minute, if you're not going 4 years at the max, Houston will go 4 years at their max. Then does that turn this around? So, this one I think is going to probably, be one that drags all the way into, we're not going to know until sometime on the 30th, first, maybe even the 2nd, just because, he's kind of the big dog in free agency right now because Kyrie Irving, all reports are it's pretty much Dallas or bust for him. So, that leaves Harden kind of controlling things here a little bit. And generally, whoever the big free agent is, tends to take a little bit of time just because it's not just about what are you giving me, it's what else are you going to do that makes this valuable for me.
So, and I don't think this is a situation though that's going to hold up free agency. Like last year, Kevin Durant suddenly asking for a trade from Brooklyn just stopped everything around the NBA. And then we were just frozen for like a month waiting for Kevin Durant to figure out life and the Brooklyn Nets. And then
or like every time LeBron's been a free agent, like it holds everything up because it's like, all right, where's he going? Because I may want to go there too, or maybe I want to backfill where he left. You're like that holds everything up. So this is not. I don't think it's gonna be that because it seems like realistically it's between Philly and Houston, and that's it. It's not like there's like 7 other teams that could be in play here. So I don't think there's like 10 other free agents that are like, well, I got to see where Harden goes and
No.
let's go. So we'll see. More buzz though that maybe Philly's going to move Tobias Harris finally. That he's turned into, now it's an expiring deal, right? And this is like one of the things, right? If we ever make like a Trevor and Keith's 10 commandments of the NBA, like one of the things will be expiring deals can always be traded, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that'll be somewhere on that list. Now that he's an expiring deal, now it's up for trade. So that'll probably fall somewhere in there as well.
Keith, a big trade is going to happen on July 4th, right as you settle in for your post-barbecue nap.
Probably.
That's when it's going to happen.
Right.
That's when it's going to happen.
Definitely going to happen if you jump in the car to drive somewhere at the same time that I'm sitting down to take a nap.
Like July 6th, when I'm traveling out to Vegas for Summer League, something's going to happen.
Oh, 100%.
You know, that's
I made sure my flight, because I'm on that plane for a long time from Orlando to a stop to Vegas. It's a pretty long flight. I made sure I have Wi-Fi, and I'll pay the $5 or $10 or whatever it is. Like I gotta be able to sit there and I'll probably be that annoying guy on the plane who's like constantly fiddling with my phone and but I have headphones. I'm actually a pretty good traveler with that stuff. I sit in my seat. I don't get up. I stay in my seat. I read a book. I play on my laptop. I'll mess around with my phone a little bit. Like I'm I tend to think I'm a pretty good roommate on airplanes.
We may have made a mistake there.
Uh-oh.
I think we're both going to be in the air at the same time. We should have done it like, you know how like you've got to have like if all the members of Congress are in the one place, at the same time, there's the designated survivor and all that, right? Like we should have scheduled it so that we're not both in the air at the same time in case any news breaks.
Well, now what will happen though is now there'll be two big trades while we're in the air. They'll probably announce expansion teams, and they'll say like, "Oh, we realized there was cheating in the 2007 NBA finals, and we need to replay them or something."
And Adam Silver will officially abdicate and seize power to LeBron James, and everything else will happen.
And then Kang and Kodos will come down from the Simpsons. We're in charge now.
It will be. I don't even know. I've never tried to upload a video from an airplane, but that would be the most epic. I have done it.
If we jump on and we'll record a show live from the. Then that would not be being a good seatmate.
No,
on an airplane. People would not like
that. There was a big rumor that broke a couple years ago while we were driving, and we were like, it was like a long drive. And so my wife actually filmed me as I'm driving and I'm talking about what's going on in this news and everything, and then uploaded it from my phone from the road. I don't know if I could pull it off from a plane. Maybe that's a new challenge for this year. Anyway,
it's been a great video because it must have been like this.
Yeah, basically was. I'm just kind of like looking out the side. I'll constantly while I'm talking. I think I was talking about Chris Paul. Actually,
it's funny that's when you tell your daughter, "Hey, can you hold the steering wheel? Just hold it straight, sweetie. It's okay. We'll be good."
All right. The Raptors are reportedly reluctant to trade OG Anunoby.
Shocker.
No surprise. Everybody who has anybody on the trade market is reluctant to trade that player because, gosh, they really, really, really like them. You're going to have to give me something good because this guy is awesome. I don't think that's necessarily wrong. Like OG Anunoby's a good player, but this is a guy who was in a ton of trade rumors this last trade deadline. No surprise that he's going to be in rumors again here this summer. And also no surprise that the Raptors would want it out there that, well, we really like him. So gosh, you're going to have to give us a lot if we're going to trade him away. It's posturing this time of year. Again, doesn't mean they don't like him, but this is the type of information that you want to put out there if you're a team with a player that other teams are going to want in trade discussions.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I would say reluctant is not, we're not trading.
Yeah.
Right. Let's, like that makes sense. And that probably says, hey, before you pick up the phone and call about OG Anunoby, have a real offer. Like, don't start it with, hey, here's just the salary match, right? You better have some picks and other stuff you're willing to put in there. And then that turns into, a different conversation on that. So, that I would think that's probably, where part of this is coming from. I will tell you, though, talking to people around the league, people don't understand at all what Toronto's doing because they're like, Anunoby, Siakam, sounds like they might keep him. There's a rumor out there that they'd just as soon re-sign Fred VanVleet. So it's everybody's like, a lot of people are like, are they just really gonna run it back again with team that's not, I mean, they're not bad, but they're certainly, I don't think anybody feels like they're good. So, I don't know. They're confusing, which probably means they're probably just going to turn right around and, go in a direction of, hey, let's, trade everybody and, bottom this thing out around Scotty Barnes. But, we'll see.
Toronto was the team that at the deadline, we kept saying the whole deadline kind of revolves around them. Yeah. Everybody's waiting to see what they do. And then aside from Jakob Poeltl, they really didn't do a lot of Gary Trent, Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, all these guys were supposed to be, potentially on the move. None of them did.
They gave up a first round pick for Poeltl too, which that part tends to lead you towards like they're probably not gonna bottom this thing out. Like I don't, just a very very weird. I don't know, man. I feel like they're maybe the franchise I have the least handle on. I feel like going into all this, so I don't know.
Now,
plus, I got exorcists going on here in the house with these lights. I think I'm not sure what's happening here. We got a light bulb that's going in and out. So apparently in the middle of a horror movie. So. If I say I'll be right back, I won't be. I'll be the first one killed.
Well, that's the basketball gods trying to let you know that something is about to happen. If you say at some point, "Hey, let's all split up so we can cover more ground," we know you're gone. We know you're gone.
Yep. Yeah.
There is actually a domino effect to this, though. That again, all of this stuff that we're talking about, this isn't all happening in a vacuum. This is all connected. So when we talk about James Harden, if he stays in Philly, that from what we've heard, that would push Fred VanVleet up to the top of the list for Houston as a target. So that could also make things interesting for the Raptors. And if Fred VanVleet he's a free agent, if he gets a rich offer from Houston and decides to go there, maybe that changes the Raptors strategy and could change what they're thinking about OG Anunoby, could change Siakam, could change any of these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And Anunoby's one of those weird ones where it feels odd with a guy like him where we all love for the team when they get that team friendly contract. It's like, boy, this is really great. What a great deal for the team. Until we get towards the end of it, then it's like, it kind of sucks because you can't extend him. Even with the improved extension rules, it's still not enough for a guy like Anunoby. So then you get kind of stuck, right? Of like, well, we're going to be able to pay him in full after this because we can't extend him and keep him from free agency. And that gets a little messy. That's what the Hawks are going through with DeJounte Murray to some extent. So that just, makes things a little bit weird with that. Just it's kind of the dichotomy of, the way you feel about a contract at the very beginning is rarely the way you feel about it all the way through.
Okay, something that actually happened, like not just a rumor, but Draymond Green declined his player option. And so that means he will be a free agent. I would be surprised if he leaves Golden State. I think it made sense for him to decline his player option. I don't think this was a signal that he wants to leave. I think he just wants a longer term deal, which makes sense. I don't know that he's making what it was $27 million was his option. Yep. I don't know how much he's going to get on his next deal. Maybe he gets a raise. I don't know, but I don't think this is about, hey, get me out of Golden State. I think this opens him up to listen to some other teams, but I still think the most likely scenario is he's right back with the Warriors next season.
Yeah, what I wrote in their offseason preview, which posted this morning on Spot Track, is I feel like this was always going to happen. He was always going to opt out. If I'm the Warriors, I'm trying to align his contract with Stephen Curry's, which runs for 3 more seasons, this upcoming season and 2 more. So add Draymond Green to that. Maybe you go to a 4th year, but you got to have non-guarantee, partial guarantee, team option, some protection on that 4th year, but probably $80 to $90 million in guaranteed salary for Draymond over whatever the next contract is. He adds a few more years of guaranteed money and align him with Steph and just keep things moving. Try to keep that window open for what at that point will been, pushing towards a decade and a half.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's probably the path we're going to go down here. There's also a report that the Suns feel like they're in position to blow past the second April. They've done it. They've done it. They've blown past that second apron. The super.
What did I say yesterday? They're closer to the actual Sun than they are to the second apron.
They are. Yeah. They are going to fly past this thing. And again, those big restrictions are going to kick in next season. They're going to lose their taxpayer mid-level this season. But part of the reason why they think they can do this is they intend to keep like most of their own free agents. And is there a situation where they could overpay some of those guys to potentially have a trade chip moving forward?
Yeah, don't be surprised when a guy like Jock Landale maybe gets $5 or $6 million
Yeah.
this year. If you're thinking of him as a minimum guy, Torrey Craig could maybe get like a $10 million contract. Darius Baisley could get maybe like an $8 to $10 million contract. Because what you're trying to do, again, you have through this year, you can still stack contracts together. So what you would do is you'd stack a handful of those guys together and go and put them in a trade like that. That's how you do that. And then even the guys who are the minimum guys, they'll probably re-sign a bunch of them too, and just keep things moving a little bit. And we'll talk about it here in the trade. Now it's reported they're going to get Jordan Goodwin and Isaiah Todd. We didn't know those at the time yesterday when we recorded the show. Jordan Goodwin's a pretty good player. He's actually can play. He was pretty solid for Washington. He's a scoring guard. He's more point guard size, but has more of a 2-guard game. But he's a pretty good versatile bench guard for them.
Yeah.
And then Isaiah Todd he's a big man. Came out of G League Ignite. I was super high on him because I thought he'd be pretty good, and he's been terrible. He hasn't done anything in his first 2 years, and last year was a complete disaster for the Wizards G League team. Just really, really bad. He shot like 35% from the field overall, and this guy's like 6'11". Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. He mostly took 3-pointers. Like they basically tried to, and maybe the whole idea was, hey, we don't care. We just want you taking them. If that's the theory, but whatever, if you're Phoenix, you need anybody who can play a little bit and you'll figure it out from here. So yeah, but that is going to be, I think you'll see that they're definitely going to overpay a handful of guys just for no other reason. As long as you don't go too far with it, they remain trade values, right? As long as it's 1 year, maybe 2 years, and the numbers aren't too ridiculous, you can put them in any kind of deal as you come along in the year. Kind of shows you what other needs develop.
So, and the problem is it can only happen for this year, right? Once
Correct.
we get into next year, they can't aggregate those salaries and trades anymore, and they also have like literally nothing left to attach to any of these guys to turn it to like. Normally, you have to. Like, okay, we're going to take Jock Landale. We're going to turn him into a player that fits a little bit better to grease the wheels. Here's a 2nd-round pick. They got nothing.
Yeah, but I wish I could remember who put this on Twitter, but it might have been Evan Sidery. I think
their picks for the next all the way through 2029 or something.
They have control of none.
None.
If they do trade all 6 second-rounders, that is reportedly they may, which is this year's through 2028. Those 6 second-round picks, that's it, because they already owe their 2029 second to the Thunder from that Baisley Sarge trade. I believe it was from that one at the trade deadline. And then they would owe all their first, the 4 to Brooklyn. They already owe Brooklyn a pick swap, and reportedly they're giving pick swap rights to Washington for the 2 years, and the other 2 years they would have no control over their draft all the way through. I can tell you with all certainty that has never happened before, where a team has no control over their draft for the next 7 years. Now, to clear some stuff up with that, because this has been coming up a lot, is people know picks get frozen, picks get moved to the end of the first round, all this stuff with the new CBA. This does not impact a single pick that has already been traded. Those picks will fall wherever they're supposed to fall. None of that frozen pick stuff starts until the 24-25 season. It would be 7 years out from there. So you're talking 31, 32 draft picks. That's which sounds good. That's 2031, 2032 season draft picks, which is crazy. We'll see if we even have a league and functioning planet by then. But they will, they will be all the way out there with that's when those picks will start getting frozen. That's when picks will start getting dropped to the end of the round. Because I saw some Nets fans they just screwed us over. They're going to be in the super tax, and all the picks we're going to get are going to drop to the end of the round. That is not how it works. Those picks will go wherever they should have conveyed at anyway. It would be starting much further down the line.
Somewhere Ted Stepien has the biggest smile on his face right now. Anybody
doesn't know, go look up why it's called the Stepien rule.
Yes,
he intentionally tried to basically destroy the Cavaliers, and
it was too
well at that for a while.
It was to the point where this was back in the 80s. The NBA actually took the keys to the car away from Ted Stepien. Like they took away his power to trade
back supplemental picks because
those
are so bad.
They were legitimately worried that he was going to trade like the next decade worth of their
Yep.
picks, and then they were never going to be able to sell that team. They were
And
like
they
once
weren't
they
good
got the
trades either. Like
yeah,
these
they
were
were
not
awful.
like, and not even like they were not good trades that they knew were not good trades at the time.
Yeah.
It was as close to we've seen like major league where like it's intentional to ruin the entire team
Yeah.
as we've ever seen in sports. And
But
I guess
by
up
the way,
until now,
thank you for
Warriors
James
still
Worthy, Ted Stepien.
yeah, right. Yeah, that's true. You did
So
benefit from that.
this is interesting because I think that, and I talked about this a little bit on the Lakers Nation podcast earlier today. I said, look, this is the NBA, the new CBA was designed to stop this from happening,
Yeah.
to stop what the Suns have done from happening. So now this is going to be the test case, right? Teams are going to be watching to see what happens here with Phoenix. Is it, are they put in a situation where they have no depth on their roster and one or two guys get hurt and now they're screwed? Or do they find a way to survive and thrive and win a championship with this group? And I think that's going to inform some other teams of how to approach this and how to handle this. I think most teams are going to look at that 179.5 million number that it is for this year. It'll change, but that it is for this year. They're going to look at it as though it's functionally a hard cap and they're not going to want to pass it. The Suns are going to blow past it and they're going to try to say, nope, this is our team and we are going to win even without all of these things, all of these powers that other teams are going to have. We're going to try to win despite not having all of this stuff because we're going to have a team that we're just going to lock into. And what happens here, I think, is going to be fascinating because everybody's going to be watching to see what happens with the Suns team. Do they implode? Look, the ceiling is very high, but the floor is very low as well. This could become a disaster from which the Suns are not able to recover from for a decade if it doesn't go the way that they want it to go. Again, the ceiling is that they win multiple championships, though, and we'll see which way it plays out.
Yeah, this is not dissimilar to the circumstances with the whole second apron, super tax, all that stuff. This is not unlike what we said when the Lakers traded for Anthony Davis. At the time, the conversation that I remember you and I had was, if you win a championship, it doesn't matter. It was a success. Yes. It does not matter what Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball turned into. None of that matters. If you win a title, it was a success.
Yep.
So for the Suns, I can tell you with all certainty, this is going to end poorly. Like it will end very, very ugly. There's almost no way it won't.
Are you talking about in right? Like, but we just don't know when that's going to be.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Whether that's 2 years from now, 4 years from now, at some point, it's just probably going to be ugly, right? You're going to have bad contracts on your books that you probably don't want. It's just going to be kind of a mess. But if you win a championship in the next 2 seasons, it doesn't matter, right? Then it was a success and you did it. We all fantasize and want these Warriors, Spurs like runs of decades of success. They're rare. They just don't generally happen. So yeah, I have no problem with the Suns loading up and going for it because, as we already talked about earlier in the show, this was kind of their last chance to do it. And on its face, if you just kept it to strictly basketball, Landry Shamet had no role on that team anyway. So you traded Chris Paul for Bradley Beal. Well, Bradley Beal's a better player than Chris Paul.
Oh, right now. It kind of fell into like you had to do it.
Yeah,
at that point, right? Like you had to, just based on the value you have to. This isn't damn the Suns for defying the NBA or whatever. Like this situation is in front of them. Hey, we can get Bradley Beal for nothing, pretty much. Exactly. We got to do this and give it a shot. I'm saying other teams are going to be watching to see what happens here, and this could, this could be a decade of misery for the Suns if it doesn't go well. Kevin Durant is 35 in September. Like we don't know exactly how this is going to play out. At some point, it's going to catch up to them. The question is, do they win a championship before that point?
That's exactly it. Do they win a title? Then it doesn't matter. If they don't, then, you tried in the interim. Does this, give more ammo to teams like the Warriors and the Clippers to say, hey, be damned. Let's load up too. Let's go, let's do this further, deeper too. Like, these guys are. Do the Celtics look at it and say, you know what? We don't need to trade Malcolm Brogdon. We're fine, right? We can just roll forward now and we'll pile up a whole bunch of, money. Our other team's motivated to go past. We're going to find out, right? It's going to be, again, I say this a lot. There's not one way to build a team. The Suns have chosen their way. Now let's see what this looks like. But to your point, this is not what this was intended to do,
No.
was motivate teams this year to load up and go for it. The intention of this kind of interim year was get your stuff in order. So when all
Yeah.
these penalties come down a year from now, and instead the Suns struck the first blow with saying, we're going to go the other way.
Yep.
Be damned whatever those penalties are. We'll figure them out. This is a lot of let tomorrow's problems be tomorrow's problems. Let's go
Consequences,
forward right
consequences, right?
now. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see how this all plays out
Yeah.
for Phoenix. It'll be interesting. I don't anticipate a lot of teams following them down this path.
No, I don't think so either. I think some other teams are going to look at it as one, can they even, right? Like, who comes available that you could reasonably chase that has, all this big money left and is big money left for multiple years. I guess Damian Lillard, if he becomes available, would be the one guy, right? Could the Clippers throw in a bunch of stuff in their tradable draft picks and say, we're going to add Dame to this crew? I mean, in theory, sure, I guess. Like, I don't know, like, so that's where that could get really interesting and fun. But yeah, I mean, it's, this is why we love the league, though, right? Because they do stuff like this all the time. That anytime you think you're starting to get it figured out, some team comes along for good or for ill and says, we're going to go completely the other direction of all of this. That makes it fun. Quite frankly, it'd be boring if somebody did it the same way.
And this is a new owner coming in too. And saying, "Hey, I'm going to run this like a fantasy team, and let's go and let's see what happens." And again, this could crash and burn. This could wind up being great. We'll see. I tell you, look, if they don't win a championship in the next 2, maybe 3 years, that's not good. They could be in trouble.
I want, since Matt Ishbia very famously played for Michigan State, who's the Spartans. I want somebody to from the movie 300, where they send the emissary and he's in and he's like, this is madness, but they put like Adam Silver's face on that guy's body, and then Matt Ishbia is like, this is Sparta, and like kicks him into the thing. Like, I want somebody to do that now.
I heard something. I read something the other day that was like a behind the scenes of like the filming of that movie. And said that that they recorded that line a bunch of times, and it was not meant to be screamed. It was just a spoken line, And then Gerard Butler, right when they finished, they said, "Okay, we're wrapping." He said, "All right." He said, "Hang on, let me do one more take and let me try yelling it." And they did it, and they went, "Oh damn!" so they kept that.
We can close the show here with a personal moment, and you'll appreciate this as a history teacher, a former history teacher. Anytime I had to do a class project and it was like pick a famous battle, I always did the Battle of Thermopylae.
Yeah.
Because it fascinated me to no end that like this in 300's a little, obviously the movie is way dramatized and the number was much greater than 300, but that this relatively small army held off this, because at the time the Persian army was just this unstoppable force, and that really did give the rest of Greece the motivation to band together and come together to stop this takeover by the Persian army. But yeah, man, that was my go-to project. I remember I even had this. It was a board game where you played like through like a canyon in a part of it, and I took like little army soldiers and like put them like in there. Like, yeah, it was that was my big diorama one year, like 5th grade history class. Shut up, Mr. Slater. 5th grade history teacher, one of my favorite teachers all time.
That's awesome. That's a good battle to pick. That's a really good one. Yeah, absolutely. All right. We do have one last topic.
Oh, we do.
We do have one more.
Okay.
And it's your team.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
The rumor is that the Celtics are indeed going to give Jaylen Brown the Supermax, and he is going to accept. And off they go that direction. And we've been saying
for a while down the yellow brick road.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's that yellow brick road is made out of gold when we're talking about the kind of money that that's being paid out here. But it'll be, look, this was going to be the big question: was if Jaylen Brown is given the Supermax, does he decline it? And if so, then he's instantly on the trade market.
Yeah,
certainly he understands that. Yeah. And we're in an era of the NBA where the prevailing thought is get your money and then figure out your destination later. So we'll see what this ultimately means long term, but it also means he's under contract with the Celtics, or as soon as he accepts this offer, he'll be under contract with the Celtics, and it could be he just stays there for the entire. What is it going to be a 5-year that they'll do?
Yeah, it has to be.
It'll have
5
to be the
years.
5-year.
Yeah. In order to push him to the Supermax, has to be 5 years, has to be full, full salary, full raises. Now you don't have to necessarily give him the full salary on that. You could negotiate that down a little bit, but it does have to be 5 years in length. But in this case, it'll be 5 years. It's going to be the full amount, which will be somewhere between $290 and $300 million. We'll see. Because this reminder, this doesn't kick in until 24, 25, because he's got one more year left on his current contract. So we'll see where the cap settles at for a couple of years from now. But 5 years.
Wow.
Roughly $60 million average annual value. That's where we're headed.
Not bad money if you can get it.
Practice your jump shot, kids, and your handle. There's money to be made. And then
I think Celtics fans are hoping that Jaylen Brown is practicing his handle over the summer as well.
That is true, yeah. But I mean, go out there. Go, when you think you're done shooting your jump shots on your own, take about 10 more. There's always money in the banana stand.
All right. I think that about wraps things up for today. Kind of a supersized episode, but we had a lot of stuff to get into. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Make sure you do subscribe right here to the NBA Front Office Show over on YouTube, as well as the podcast feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is you listen to podcasts. Till next time, stay safe and see you.